Hello students, I'm getting ready to show you how to do a little research online. It's not anything that should be super new to you, but I just wanted to show you real time how to do it in case you needed a refresher course. So we are doing a paper on censorship in other countries. That might be banned books, it might have something to do with media or the internet. So you were asked to pick a country that had very restricted freedoms and to do some research on that country to find out what their restricted freedoms are and try to figure out why. So to begin, I'm going to go ahead and type in a internet search, and we're going to do internet restrictions. And I'm going to do the Arab Spring. I think that's a really interesting subject because in Egypt, they completely shut down the internet in January of, I don't remember which year. But during that time, they were trying to suppress the uprising. So they completely shut down the internet because people were organizing using the internet and using social media. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at some sources for that. Now, as we start here, we see that we have Wikipedia, and absolutely no, you may not use Wikipedia, but if you want to mine Wikipedia, that is absolutely a legitimate thing to do. So, for example, you are not going to cite Wikipedia. You need to find a source in here and say, we're just going to randomly choose this one. Number 3, this says something about what we're interested in, okay? It is an article on Egypt leaders found off switch for internet by the New York Times. And that's probably something we can access even if we don't have an academic subscription. So I'm going to go ahead and click the number 3. And then that takes us down to the bottom of the page. And this is what's known as data mining. And data mining is when you look at the sources in papers that you're reading to find other sources of information for what you're writing on. So Wikipedia is a great source for data mining. Absolutely, you cannot cite it. You cannot use information that's posted directly on Wikipedia, but you can and should data mine Wikipedia if possible. One of the important things about this is that when you are data mining Wikipedia, you need to make sure that your sources are credible. One way to make sure your sources are credible is to follow the CRAAP Test that I gave you: currency, relevancy, authority, accuracy, and purpose, to make sure it's a legit source. Because as we all know, anybody can post on Wikipedia. And even though it's more locked down these days, it's not considered a real academic source for papers. So I'm going to click on this link. This is the New York Times. Okay. New York Times as a news source is probably pretty credible. Things you want to stay away from: anything that says ask.org or ask.com, obviously. Anything that says SparkNotes, don't ever quote that, ever, even though that may not be a legitimate thing for this project. Basically, posting boards, bulletin boards. If you use a blog, you can use blogs, but you want to make sure that it's from a really, really legitimate source. So, for instance, a blog that is hosted by National Geographic, you could use that blog probably. That's probably a pretty straight up source. But be careful otherwise. Pretty much anybody can post on the internet. I could post on the internet and say whatever crazy kind of things I wanted to. And you need to make sure it's sponsored by somebody that's legitimate. Okay? So I found an article via Wikipedia called Egypt Leaders Found Off Switch for Internet. Okay? This was published in February 15th, 2011. Okay? So, that seems like a pretty good source. This is something I would certainly want to look into for my project, because I'm going to write about Egypt. I think that's going to be one of the greatest projects to write about as far as internet security is concerned. So if I wanted to then save this to my Google Drive, because you are going to share this with me, all you need to do is say right-click, print, and when you open it up here, you can get save as PDF. You can save it as a PDF and then upload it to Google Drive. Or if the computer is set up, you can say change. Okay, and let's see if it, there it is. It allows me to save it to Google Drive just right there in that dialog box. So I'm going to say save to Google Drive. Okay, and I'm logged in as Estrada at ChinoValleySchools.com, so that's right. I'm going to go ahead and say save. And then it's going to take 3 million years. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and open up my Google Drive. The thing about this, when you save to Google Drive, it's probably going to come up as some weird extension. It won't save it with the actual name of the article. So you just have to go into your Google Drive, and you have to see if you can find it here. Okay, and this is pretty easy because it tells you last modified, 8:53 p.m. That's me doing this right now. Egypt's autocrats. So this is the article here. Now, once you've found your articles, you of course need to fill out the CRAAP test. CRAAP test is very, very subjective. However, if you fill out the CRAAP test and you've done a good job of figuring out whether or not you think it's a good source, I should be able to evaluate that and come to a conclusion that is very, very similar to yours. If you find out that it's a good source and I look at it and I find out that it's a fair source, we are obviously very off in what we think a good source is. And you'll need to find something else. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this little guy up. Now you do need to submit these by paper. You need to submit your articles by Google Drive. But I also want you to submit the CRAAP test worksheet. And that was not it. At any rate, you should probably have a pretty solid sense of what the CRAAP test... Oh, there it is. CRAAP test worksheet. There it is, CRAAP worksheet. Okay, so you should have a pretty good idea of what this is. Okay. The main thing here is that you use this information to try to figure out whether or not you think it's a credible source. And we've gone through the presentation before. We've briefly gone through it in class. So you should be able to fill this out to some degree. Currency, the timeliness of the information. Obviously, mine looks pretty solid. It was February 2011. I think the internet shutdown in Egypt occurred in 2010. And go through and like Relevance. That whole entire article is about the shutdown of the internet in Egypt. Okay? So, in a nutshell, you need to fill out this worksheet. You don't necessarily have to fill out all of the tiny blanks here. But I want you to give me an overview. Do you think the currency is good based on these questions? Okay. And I'm going to say currency of this article is, I would give it about a 9 or a 10. That's pretty good. It's February 2011. Happened pretty quick after that. Relevance, once again, it's a pretty relevant source. And for high school research, New York Times should be a pretty credible source. So we're going to go okay with the relevance. Again, I'd give it maybe an 8 or a 9. Okay. Just use your own judgment there. If you come up with a score that's short, we will sit down and we will talk about it and we'll try to figure out if it is okay or if you need to look for something else. Okay, so here you are in your drive, and once again, you're probably going to want to put this in a folder for the paper that you're doing. Okay, if you wanted to do that, you would create new. You'd say folder, and you might say Estrada final paper, and say create. Okay, and there it is. Now I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to take this little guy. I'm going to pick him up and I'm going to try to drag him over here, and it's not going to work because my son killed my mouse. Okay, don't share that file. At any rate, if you had a real live laptop that was working like a normal laptop that wasn't killed by a 4.5-year-old, you should be able to just drag this into that file that you created. Okay? At any rate, all you need to do, once you get into the file folder, if you want to create a project file, or if you just want to kind of be scattered, knock yourselves out. You do need to share this with me, though. So you need to click the little person plus guy up here while that article is highlighted. So let's say person plus. Okay? And then you're just going to start typing my name here. I'm going to come up as Estrada at Chino Valley Schools. Okay? And we can leave that as can edit. Doesn't matter. And click send. Okay? And that's going to allow me to see what your source is. Now, once again, you need 2 sources about a country that has restricted freedoms. You're researching their restricted freedoms, what they are, and trying to figure out why they have those restricted freedoms. Okay? So you will submit 2 articles by sharing them with me on Google Drive. In addition, you're going to submit 2 of those CRAAP tests, the CRAAP test worksheet, showing me how you think that your article stacks up as far as credibility is concerned, as far as a quality resource is concerned. Things that you might be looking for, you might look more towards .org sources, .gov sources, .com sources are certainly fine, but make sure that it's a quality source. Don't go with some random source that doesn't have any connections or any notability. When you get to college, you'll actually have access to academic databases, which will make this a lot easier. But for now, you kind of have to be on your own as far as finding sources on the internet. So please be discriminate. Once I figure out what country you're researching and your topic, I am going to provide you with 2 resources that I find that I think are credible, and you'll be required to incorporate those into your writing project. So just be aware that once you find your sources, once you submit your CRAAP test, I am going to evaluate those. I am going to provide you with additional information, and anything that you're drafting now will need to incorporate those resources. So I think that's pretty much a wrap. If you have any questions, I'm going to be in probably between 10:15 and 10:30 this morning, and you can ask them then. See you later.